Great to hear from Molly Taylor in the Australian Rally Championship down there at Rally Taz. And as they say, she was born ready, that girl, and it's great to see her driving in TCR as part of the Shannons Nationals. We're about to get away with the last race of the Cams Pace Formula 4 for round number 5. Darren Smith and Rob James with you.
And that was the race start from pole position. Lewis Leeds getting a brilliant start off the line. We're starting with the wet hand-cooked tyres. It's not quite dry enough for wets. The sun is out. But Jackson Walls, what a move into turn 1, takes the lead in the Patrizia Corsa entry. Lewis Leeds drops back to P2. Our race winner this morning, Lockie Hughes, Tommy Smith into P4. It is all happening 3 wide into turn 3 as well, between Ryan Saul, Emerson Harvey and Antonio Studi. Man, these guys are up and about this afternoon here at the Bend Motorsport Park.
You guys have got 9 laps still to go. Don't get it all away, but gee, testament to them. They've got all through the first 5-6 corners. Coming down to the turn 6 hairpin now, it's Lewis Leeds, who's been given a short back and sides by Jackson Walls down at turn 1, and looked like
Tommy Smith
going. Yeah, Tommy
Smith going down, and Ryan Saul's climbed up to P4. He's all over the back of Lockie Hughes. Geez, these boys have had their week picks this morning. Will Brand, the 2016 F4 champion, looking eager on. He's passing on the baton of the championship from a couple of years ago to these F4 races. Good to see Will doing mighty fine things in the Car Sales TCR Australia Series, but at the moment, this is the next generation of Australian racing stars. Jackson Walls, Lewis Leeds, Lockie Hughes, your top 3 at the moment. Very, very condensed field as a very amazing start into turn 1.
Gee, I tell you what, this Bend Motorsport Park, wet and dry right around the track. The sports sedans just had an absolute epic battle. The track's starting to dry now. All of these cars on wet tyres, but there's a distinctive dry line already starting to appear. There's a little bit of sun there we have there, intermittently coming through some clouds, but certainly by the end of this 9 laps, if we don't get any more rain, these hand-cooked tyres are going to be absolutely punished. They'll be tearing blocks out of them by lap 6.
Yeah, they'll turn to slicks, but then they'll degrade very quickly after that as well. Very soft compound is the wet weather tyre. They come up to temperature real quick, but when it's dry like this, man, they just tear chunks off the tyres. As we see, lap 1, the end of lap 1, Jackson Walls, Lewis Leeds, Lockie Hughes, Ryan Saul, Tommy Smith, Antonio Studi and Emerson Harvey making out the first lap. Everyone got away with that relatively cleanly. Lewis Leeds, though, having a look around the outside. He reckons there might be a little bit of grip, hopefully a dash of water to cool down those hand-cooked tyres. We may see a pit stop yet, and they're side by side through turn 2. These guys are racing on wet weather tyres in pretty much the dry. These tyres are going to wear out for sure, so we might see pit stops yet. I can see all the teams on the pit wall now. They're certainly going to be thinking about when will they box this lap. But hopefully the weather gods will strike in and we'll see a downpour here at the Bend Motorsport Park.
Car number 11, Jackson Walls there, eyes forward. Jackson, he is consumed by Lewis Leeds in his mirrors at the moment, and that's what Lewis is trying to do, zigging left and zagging right. It'll be a white, black and red flash in his mirrors each time he does it. Jackson Walls basically needs to just grab those mirrors and throw them out the back of the car at the moment, race his own race in the number 11 Objective Racing entry, and just try and force Lewis Leeds to try and get through on him. Don't make a mistake. Don't worry about what Lewis is doing unless he draws right alongside you. Get on with your own race there. Ryan Saul now also pushing in very, very hard, and Lockie Hughes weighing in on this one as well.
Just saw Tommy Smith in the background just darting off into the inside at the moment. No one looking to change tyres just yet, so they're all just holding station at the moment. But there's a sprinkle of rain around the track. It's a long track, it's about 5 kilometres long, so there's different weather systems all across the track. So this is great motor racing when we just have that compromise of where it's wet, where it's dry, who's got the right setup for the wet or for the dry at the moment. But Jackson Walls and Lewis Leeds, these two had a bit of history this morning in the battle for P3. Jackson Walls had that position for much of this morning's second race of round 5 of the championship, but Lewis Leeds muscled his way through towards the end of that race. And it's the championship deciding round as well. It's a double round this weekend too. Lewis Leeds right in the box seat, but someone else is in the box seat to claim P2 is Lockie Hughes. They're defending on the front straight. Ryan Saul also having a look around the back too, just seeing what these guys are up to.
Lockie Hughes goes around the outside, puts him on the inside for turn 2, and does one of the easiest passes you can do at Tailem Bend Motorsport Park. And down the inside goes Ryan Saul as well. So Lewis Leeds has been dealt two serious blows there, going from P2 back to P4 in a matter of 3 corners. Lewis leads in the 23 red racing car. Has he got an issue?
Well, he's just holding station at the moment. He just needs points. He needs to not do anything silly and throw away very valuable points. There's only 4 races left in this year's championship, but ever the racer, they always want that extra bit of points. They're side by side again is Ryan Sewell, Lewis leads. Lewis leads on the wet side of the track, cooling down those Hankook tyres. It's only 1 corner, but it might be pivotal towards the end of this race.
Certainly, if Lewis is being clever and looking after the tyres, there's still 7 laps in this journey. You'd have to expect that Jackson Walls is the second fastest car on track. Lockie Hughes, maybe it's going to be who looks after their wet tyres the best and can come home, let's say, from 2 laps from the end with a good tyre still underneath them.
Yeah, we're only a third of the way into this race. We're just seeing on screen now, you can see that rain up at the back sort of part of the circuit. Bit of dirt as well to contend with too. So it's a dirty old affair out there. We just saw the Wally Taylor Australian Rally Champion of 2016 being interviewed before. It's a bit of a rallycross track here at the bend at the moment with the rain and dirt as well.
I tell you what, if it is like this later on this afternoon, watch for the likes of Molly Taylor in the car sales TCRs, because she will relish the greasy conditions. I always admire rally drivers, how they do it. They don't follow 12 or 18 corners. They've got many different corners over a stage and over an entire rally.
It's a very special discipline, is rallying.
It absolutely is. A lot of respect for those racers. A lot of respect for these guys out here at the moment in these changing conditions. This is almost the worst set of conditions for an open top, open wheeler, is changing conditions, breezy, then rain, just adapting each time you arrive at the corner. It's something different underneath your right foot, whether that be on the loud pedal or on the brake pedal.
Lockie Hughes, the fastest driver on the circuit at the moment, and you can see it. You don't need me to tell you he's the fastest man down on track. He's hustling the back of that Patrizzi Corsa car of Jackson Walls. He's about 2/10 faster that lap than Jackson Walls is Lockie Hughes. This morning's race winner is all over the back of him now, but we saw before Jackson Walls an expert in defending his line. And I just put the commentator's kibosh on him. He's just run a little bit wide. Will the switchback work though?
Puts him on the inside for the next right-hander, but I would suggest at the moment Lockie Hughes is definitely the fastest car on track, so he's got the handle of it.
Have a look
at
this.
Brave stuff from both those races there. Hughes and Walls side by side. Really good racing for these two. Not touching. Don't want to send yourself down the run-off road in a canoe. Tearing wheels off the corners of these cars is not what it's about. Getting to the end of this double round and scoring maximum points.
And just look how quickly that all changed as well. Ryan Sewell's now all over the back of Lockie Hughes. So Lockie Hughes was the hunter, now he's being the hunted as well. He's juggling all sorts of positions at the moment. It is an absolute minefield out there. They'll be scrambled. They're fighting with grip. They're trying to find the best line out on track. How am I going to pass the car in front, and how am I going to defend from the guy behind me as well? So there's so much to think about, so much to process for these young drivers as well.
Lewis leads now, got the fastest first sector on this lap, so maybe what we were talking about, Rob, with just preserving the tyre, conserving what he's got underneath him on all 4 corners of the car, maybe now is where he's starting to fight back, because he's fastest in that first sector by 0.2 of a second, so he's dragged himself right up onto the back of Ryan Sewell. These are the main championship protagonists in 3rd and 4th at the moment.
Exactly right. Jackson Walls is the smoky for sort of the 2nd and 3rd place positions as well in this year's championship, and Lockie Hughes has got to remind him of the fact that he's currently ahead of him in the points table. This is remarkable stuff that they're fighting so close together. Ryan Sewell wants a piece of the action. Lockie Hughes wants the lead. Jackson Walls absolutely having none of it, and they touch Ryan Sewell. He's spun. He's off into the polystyrene boards. He's facing backwards. That absolutely hurts in his championship fight for Lewis leads, as we see replay now. Intra-team rivals, they banged wheels, Lockie Hughes and Ryan Sewell. They were side by side. They were thinking, surely one of us has to lift, but Ryan Sewell losing out big time in that battle between his teammates.
It's one of those crazy percentage-based decisions that Ryan Sewell wanted to go round the outside, try and stay with him. The interesting thing is that as that was happening, Tommy Smith and Antonio Studi are starting to find the car come back underneath them as well. Lewis Leeds has dragged the two of them into this party, but it's Jackson Walls that's got himself 0.29 of a second lead. I think it's actually less than that. That was earlier on in the sector, but definitely Lewis Leeds is the fastest car out there on track at the moment, followed by Antonio Astuti down there in 6th place.
Jackson Walls is absolutely menacing those curbs. You could just see him touching the dirt on those painted ripple strips, normally very, very slippery, but Jackson Walls' superb car control again is on the painted ripple strips, offered a recipe for disaster, but Jackson Walls certainly more than capable and brave to run onto those red and white ripple strips. Tommy Smith all over the back of Lewis Leeds now. Lewis Leeds just holding on, just keeping it calm at the moment. He knows he's in prime position, especially with Ryan Sewell falling back to the rear of the field.
It's a good race here, much like the Sports Sedan race. It's a race of survival, and have a look at that. Lockie Hughes.
Absolute
Fantastic
drift
car
moments.
control.
And especially on those tyres that are just losing grip every time they're on the dry line as we approach lap 6 of this motor race out of 9 laps. Again, we've seen this lap after lap. It's like Groundhog Day at the moment. We're just seeing Lockie Hughes all over the back of Jackson. He looks in his mirrors, gives him a glancing nod and says, I'm having that, thank you very much. But Jackson Walls holding his line exactly the same as we saw before. He just holds on, holds his ground, and he's still in the lead. And have a look at this, Lewis Leeds now capitalising on Lockie Hughes trying to make that pass for the lead.
Lewis
it just
Leeds
happened so quickly.
Should be the fastest at the end of this long left-hander. He hung himself out and took the ideal line through turn 1. That's how he came straight onto the back of these two. He's flowing the car beautifully and bringing himself right back into contention. He sat back off the battle of this pack, I think very intelligently looking after the tyre, but it's around about now with 3.5 laps remaining that he needs to weigh in on and just start to bring the big guns to the front now. Unfortunately, Ryan Sewell, you'd have to say that moment coming around turn 6 was a championship moment, climax of the championship, I guess you could say. But certainly Lewis Leeds now will have a very, very commanding position going into tonight's break before round 6 tomorrow morning.
We have 3 more races still to come after this one, but that's a pivotal moment. Though critically, Sewell still in the race, still in the points. So that gap will just narrow ever so much, but whether it's enough to clinch the championship today, that's for the mathematical boffins to work out with their calculators. Certainly not for me at the moment, as we're seeing Jackson Walls being harassed by Lockie Hughes.
The other thing is Lockie Hughes, now currently sitting in 2nd place, is doing his points tally haul very well as well. So we could see.
Have a look at this,
big
Lockie
one, sends
Hughes.
it.
Super deep.
Sends it down the inside there. Will it come off? It will.
Mate, Jackson Walls will be thinking in his head, what was Lockie doing and how did he find the grip and how did the car stay in one piece? And they run wide onto the back straight as well, kicking up dust. It's a full rallycross Formula 4 race at the moment. How they hung on in there is beyond me. Lewis Leeds having a look for P2 now.
Rob, we have Rookie of the Year awards, we've got Pole awards, we've got all this sort of thing. Have we got Move of the Year award? I reckon that was it right there. Lockie Hughes, that was lined up from a long way out. He saw the opportunity and took full advantage of it. Fantastic. That is the sort of move that makes a racing car driver. I think Ayrton Senna said, if you no longer go for the gap, you're no longer a racing car driver.
That classic quote. I tell you what, we should have every race on wet tyres in the drive because, I mean, we're hearing that sort of horrifying noise you're hearing in the background is pretty much those tyres going, make it rain, make it stop, please. Jackson Walls, though, he's thinking, well, you know what? Lockie, if you can do it, I can do it too. So he's certainly going to be having a think about, well, maybe I'll just brake later. If he can do it, I certainly can.
Well, they're coming up to the part of the track that it happened last lap around. Let's see if Jackson Walls can do it. Repeat the move that was put on him. He saw how it was done. It was absolute threshold of braking. But have a look at Lewis Leeds. He's weighing in on this as well. I guess that Lewis Leeds is sitting there and going, look, if it comes my way, I'll take it. I don't think we're going to see Lewis stuffing it down the inside like we just saw Lockie Hughes. An amazing pass, Lockie Hughes. That was some good stuff.
He's got 15 points to his name if he finishes where he is currently, Lewis Leeds, which would be pretty much the perfect game plan at the moment for him this weekend as he seeks to claim his first Australian title.
Lockie Hughes at the moment is hauling big points. Ryan Sewell, not so much. 44 to 62 points at this point in time. There was only 12 points difference between them coming into this round. Maybe Ryan Sewell might drop back to P3 after this. That move from Lockie Hughes, we're going to be talking about that one for some time. It's going to be weighing in on this champion.
And he's still pushing as well, Lockie. I mean, as we saw Jackson before, running onto the ripple strip as well. That shot of them running onto the last lap before, onto the curb, was simply amazing. That they just hung on in there and believed in the grip, believed in the car, and themselves for that matter too. It's all settled down a bit now. It was a very exciting 8 laps at the moment, but the race is still young. Anything could happen yet. We're still on wet tyres. The track is pretty much dry in a lot of parts as well. They're looking like rally cars at the moment.
If you're not bringing a little bit of tail and bend red dirt back to your garage after this race, you haven't been trying.
Oh, they'll get quarantined for sure when they cross the border back into their respective states.
It certainly will be. These cars have had a good dose of on and off track. Lewis leads now, just losing a little bit of impetus on this charge. He's just lost that gap now. It was under 1 second, it's now 1.55 seconds. So Lewis, I think, Rob, as you've suggested, just looking after what he's currently got.
Now, Ryan Sewell was, of course, in the top 3 before. He is set purple sectors. He's climbed up, actually, would you believe, to P6. He's passed his junior teammate, Emerson Harvey, and that'll be super important for him to recover the points lost from that position. Only a couple of points away. You can just hear those tyres just absolutely howling. It's a horrifying noise, but it's certainly indicative of the drying track at the moment these tyres are contending with.
It's tyres crying tears of pain.
They've done, you know what, they've actually done really well, the Hankook West, to hang on into these conditions too.
They've made it all the way to the end because basically their outlap was wet. The rest of the race has been dry, and we are running on very clearly dry lines around the entire track now.
I will suggest, though, those tyres will never see a racetrack ever again after this race, though.
They'll be destroyed, that is for sure. A heat cycle is an understatement for these tyres. They'll have been absolutely punished. But the Hankook tyre is doing very, very well with Formula 4 in Australia, the CAMS Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship. And I'm going to suggest that it's this race at the end of round 5 that has lit this championship right up. Maybe not for the top spot, but second and third in this championship hunt has come alive.
The good thing about the championship sort of nearing its conclusion is really everyone's just racing for fun, and that's the name of the game, really, let's be honest. So when it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, we're seeing a bit of smoke as well from one of the cars too. We see Ryan Sewell ducking off to the extreme right of the track, left of screen, of course, to just cool down those tyres a bit. Wonder if that's helping him maintain those fast sectors.
I like to see these, this is a development category, let's call it a junior category. I like to see it ending in the middle part of the year because, and off onto the dirt there for Jackson Walls. That's going to give his run at the lead a lot of harm. I was going to say, Rob, I like this kind of junior series ending early because it gives them an opportunity to go and race other things, like we're seeing other drivers racing FIA Formula 3 in Japan, various other formulas even here in Australia, maybe some tin tops or GT type racing, and also get their deal for 2020 well in place. That's what it's all about, getting yourself a deal for the next season.
Lewis Leeds, of course, very eager to return to Europe as well, but for a lot of these guys who are saying, Lockie Hughes, what's his next step? Jackson Walls is currently racing, as you mentioned, Darren, racing in Asian F3 Series, on the podium in Suzuka, so he's certainly got the rocket up him at the moment to clinch a breakthrough victory. Probably not today, but it was the closest he's been in a while to claim that win, but he should be absolutely proud to finish where he's ended up because these two have had an absolutely brilliant race. Good respect between these two as well. They both race for Patrizia Corsa as well in karting. Of course, Lockie Hughes at Team DRM in Formula 4. Still very close now at the moment on this final lap, but just not quite enough yet. So it's like that Tour de France wind down, just sort of hold position and just cross the checkered flag and accept your position.
Lewis Leeds has certainly assigned that theory. He's gone, well, we had 2.5 laps to go. I'm in a good position, and I dare say he's in communication with the pit lane as well, and they're saying, really, if you haven't got the car under you, let's get it home in one piece. Have a look at this. This has been a fantastic CAMS Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship race to end round number 5. It's Lockie Hughes to a very slender margin, 0.15 in the end to Jackson Walls. Here comes the number 23 of Lewis Leeds. He gets across the line. Then it's Tommy Smith, Antonio Astudi, and what a fantastic race. These guys have really worked hard in this one.
How was Jackson Walls making that pass on Lockie Hughes at the turn 1 on the cool-down lap? He's probably saying, I should have been there. Nonetheless, though, Lockie Hughes is your race winner. 0.1 of a second between he and Jackson Walls. Lewis Leeds, our championship leader, by quite some margin. 5 seconds off in P3, followed by Tommy Smith Antonio Estudi, Ryan Saul recovering to P6, and Emerson Harvey rounding out the final Team PRM car.
Great run there for the Cams Pace Australian Formula 4 Championship. We'll go to a quick break and we'll be back soon here at the Shannons Nationals.